Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I am so excited to have conversations around the world of men's mental wellness. I'm a broken record. I shouldn't do the same intro over again. Can we just, if you're a viewer or listener of the show, can you just assume and know that I'm going to be enthusiastic about the guests that we have here and not hold it against me? Because I am. I'm so enthusiastic about these conversations and these people. Today is no exception. This guy and I, man, we're brothers from another mother. Chris D.T. Gordon is his name. And Chris Gordon, the DT is a beautiful distinction if you want to go find his book or look for him as a speaker. Chris DT Gordon, Chris is an awesome guy. Boy, did he go through an ordeal, a medical ordeal a few years ago. And what that did was he's fine now and he's survived it. But he has, we talk about how success leaves clues. Sometimes going through really hard things leaves clues. Sometimes the success is surviving something, and boy did he, and he has shared it. He's got a book, From Survivor to Striver, how gratitude can turn you into a superhero. Clearly he talks about gratitude, but it's so much more. He gives 3 questions during this conversation that I think everybody should write down and ponder. A really great guy who has gone to the depths almost of death and back, and has done a phenomenal job of framing that in a way that has helped himself, his family, and others as well. He's a big comic book nerd the way that I am, and so we have a lot of fun talking today. I'm really grateful for the conversation that we just had here, and I would have said that whether it was about gratefulness or not. I'm super grateful. I hope you will be too. Please enjoy my conversation with Chris D.T. Gordon. All right, Chris, I get a little flack, not flack, but people talk about how enthusiastic I always am in my intro. And I always say, oh, I'm really excited to talk about this person. And I am. I'm always excited to talk to people around, have conversations around the space of men's mental wellness, to hear their story and to share perspective so we can help people. But today, I mean, I'm always excited. But today, when I get a fellow comic book enthusiast, when I get somebody who is wrapped in the lore of the mythology of my youth, and is excited about that as well. Chris, honestly, if you were to turn the camera around to the other side of the podcast studio, you would see 3 display cases set up, and most of the statues or the hot toys or the things that are in there are comic book referenced. And so having you on today brings a special kind of joy. Chris, welcome to heCast.
Well, thank you, Mike. I greatly appreciate the intro and the energy you're bringing. And really quick, before I forget, I must do the same to you. I will bring my computer to show you that I am legit. You can see some Hello Kitty inspired cardboard paintings, and then I'm working on it.
There it is.
I got some Transformers.
Yeah, I was a big Hasbro guy.
In the corner, there's Fortress Maximus,
fantastic,
holding blaster. Yep, like an 80s breakdancer. And behind me, I got the Ninja Turtles, and of course, I am also Star Wars, so I have 6 right here.
I'm a big Star Wars guy
6.
too. Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's fantastic. And it's funny because, you going through what you've gone through, and we'll get into all that, but the idea that you went through, something that many people would call horrific, and perhaps you yourself at times called it that, but then now the way that you refer to it as your origin story, I love that. Because, you talk about the Transformers that are back there. I was more a G.I. Joe guy, but I love Transformers too. The idea of transforming from one thing into another as a result of an epic event that happens in our life. You are the poster child for that. I want to talk about, your biography a little bit. Special ed educator, correct?
Yes. Yes, I'm a special educator licensed in learning disabilities and autism spectrum disorder.
Okay,
and I've been teaching
a growth industry. Safe to say, a growth industry since you started this.
Yes, yes. I will never run out of students.
The
So
numbers when it comes to spectrum or autism, the things that I don't even want to call it an affliction anymore. It just seems to be that brains are so complex, and the way that that has in our lifetimes, the level of knowledge that we have had has grown in that area so much. I can only
yeah.
understand. I jokingly called it a growth industry. Boy, oh boy, the changes that you have seen, and my god, the support that you must have seen in your career must just be astounding.
Yes, it is quite the eye catcher. Does get attention. You're right, Mike. Especially within the last 20 years since brain research has just illuminated what we can do mentally, but also what struggles we have. And
Yeah.
I think that people who aren't as well versed in in psychology or just in how the brain functions thinks that, oh well, this is something made up, or they might even think that it's some kind of scam. And I know I'm maybe speculating a little too much, but I think it just goes to the show how advanced we are as a society that we can find these new idiosyncrasies within the brain and things that we would have institutionalized people for a number of years ago, or just, oh well, it's just because of this.
Yep.
Someone who just popped in my head, Forrest Gump, that movie character who people thought he was stupid and slow. And yes, he sometimes could not function as well as others in one way, but he had other talents. And we need to realize we're all Forrest Gump in some way,
Mm,
shape, and form.
yep.
That, yes, there are some ways that we struggle, but there are other ways that we are geniuses or that just click for us.
Yep.
And I think that as you said, it's a growth industry. I'm not going to argue that. I mean, there seems to be more and more, people diagnosed on some level of autism, but that just comes with the understanding what we are as people.
Yeah.
And I think the more we realize, well, we all have some semblance of abnormality, whether it's like a lower level, or maybe it
Hmm.
affects us at a greater degree. It's okay. That's what makes us us.
Yeah. I think that's very well put. You used a word as you were talking about this, idiosyncrasies within the brain. I love that, the reframe of what we might think that is. You talk about Forrest Gump. I've got a family that's very close to me in my financial career. And they've got a couple of autistic boys, and they work very, very closely with all of the different activist groups and support groups that are up here in my area of Western Canada. And um, I was talking to the gal's husband, and we were going through, and he was talking about the Big Bang Theory, and he said, "Boy, I just wish that Sheldon is Sheldon in the Big Bang Theory, but I just wish that they would actually take the leap and put the
Mhm.
label." And not that labels are a good thing, but at least create the awareness there
Yeah.
that's the character that they have, and because it's quite a it's in many ways a remarkable, the idiosyncrasies that we're talking about many times are remarkable, and
Mhm.
we've come a long way, since Rain Man, and to where we are now, and
Yes.
it's very cool to see that, and you doing that as a vocation, you being involved in that. First off, I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful that you're able to help members of our society that have these things that are perhaps outside of the box of convention, and doing that. So that says a lot to your heart right there. Never mind the
Thank you.
story and all the other stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing what you do. You're making the world a brighter place, and I'm glad that there is more um, awareness that's out there. I'm curious from your perspective, the awareness that's out there sometimes jumps on a freight train and it goes, whether it leaves a station and it gets going fast, whether or not the information is correct or not. As you've seen this happen in your in this 20 years that you're talking about here, are there some misconceptions that are out there that you still wish would be cleared up?
Yes, I think that something that really gets people's attention is like you mentioned Rain Man.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about the character of Raymond, he was extraordinarily talented at numbers.
Yep.
And that's just the way his brain was wired.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of people really think, well, all people who are autistic are just incredibly powerful math skills.
Yep.
And it's no, so yeah, no. It's not that at all. It just happens that some people who are autistic actually are artistic. That's the way
Yes.
their brain is wired.
Yes.
And I think if we think of the brain as a computer, which it is, I mean, it is powered by electricity when you think about
Sure.
it.
Absolutely.
Many, computers are geared towards some capacity, some applications more readily than others. And
Yep.
our brains are like that.
Yep.
And every computer, every computer powers on the same way, but after that, the functions that it completes can be varied, and so can our brains. And so I think, thinking less of people as being just good at things
Yes.
or bad at things is just like, well, that might be the case, but I think that's a broad stroke. I just think we need to, look at the person and say, okay, you know, yes, you are good at this, and maybe you're not good at this, but let's not just put that as your identity.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was referring to, like saying, we've come a long way since Rain Man, because I think that
Yeah.
awareness is good, but at the same time, when it's incorrect awareness, or there are assumptions that get made, that's where we get into trouble when it comes to things. Um, I want to get into. By the way, congratulations on writing a book. Many times, my wife and I are both.
Thank you.
We went through something, with our granddaughter a few years ago, a health crisis, and thank goodness she's all good. Everything's fine with her. But through
Great.
that process, we learned a lot about ourselves, and we wrote a book about it. And it's such
Mm.
a. I always love talking to authors who, my when we wrote our book, my 12th grade English teacher, he wrote back to me and he said, "Hey, congratulations, you finally had something to say." And I think when we write and we put things out there, the whole idea of we want to have something to say is a huge part of it. Your book certainly has done that. It has certainly done exactly what your motto is, being the attitude of gratitude, always being grateful, taking a hard situation and trying to make some good out of it. And clearly that's what your book has done. Can we please talk about that for a little bit and talk about what you went through and the genesis of the book, and take it from there?
Yeah, certainly. If you give me a second, Mike, I have to real life here.
No, no,
Here's
no.
Sammy. Here's Sammy. He's a seventh month old
Sammy.
Bichon poodle. We love him. He's also
Yep.
getting into something real quick. I have to clear out. So
No, do what you got to do, man.
1 second here.
Dogs track well on the
Make
show.
sure
People
that
like the puppies. We're fine with that.
yeah,
And while you're
yeah.
doing that,
So
the title of the book, From Survivor to Striver, how
yes,
gratitude can turn you into a superhero. And right there, ours was a long title too. It had a semicolon in it with a brief kind of description in the title as well.
subtitle.
And
Yeah,
I think a lot of these books that seek to help people try and share a little bit more in the title than have that punchy whatever. From Survivor to Striver, how gratitude can turn you into a superhero. Um, the survivor part, reading your story, knowing what you've gone through, holy smokes, you're lucky to be here today. And I mean,
I
sometimes it
am.
takes a moment like that where that's where gratitude can come from. It's like a wake up call. It's like a cold shower where you suddenly, are thrust into the present moment, and there's a realization there what that the present moment might be very different or might not even be happening. And so sometimes
Yes.
that could be a charge to gratitude. Was gratitude something that you had already gone down the path of before you went through what you went through?
No, I was an incredible jerk all through my life. It was unbelievable. I'm surprised I survived getting to 40 in the first place. No, I'm
Really?
just kidding. I was a nice guy.
Oh my God,
I
you had
was
me.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I was raised by two I was raised by, two middle class people, from both from Pennsylvania, and they had strong upbringings of, how you should treat people. So yeah, I mind my P's and Q's, and I would try to show kindness to people. I would always use someone's name when we're in a restaurant if I see their name tag, or at the store,
Yep.
and obviously I still do that. But it wasn't intentional. It wasn't a solid practice. It's just something
Yep.
I did.
Yep.
So after my ordeal is when I really started putting it into intentional practice, developing strategies so it can just have that much more effect.
I'm glad that you said that, because at the end of the day, I think gratitude is one of those things where I don't know that a lot of people have necessarily turned it into an intention. We throw out the ideas, okay, I'm going to have a good day today. I'm going to try and have a good attitude today. I'm going to be happy today. But the idea of I'm going to be grateful today, or intentionalness, saying, okay, hold on, let's take a moment here. What are three things that I'm grateful for right now? And I mean, as you know, and you're going to talk about here because it changed your life in many respects, um, that right there is something that can really be an extra gear as we're going down the highway of life. Like actually just sitting there for a second, and whether we write it down or we really just kind of focus on two or three things that we're grateful for right there in that moment. That is an exercise that, again, you talk about how it can turn you into a superhero. I literally say I call it a superpower. And so I'm glad you talked about that before you even talked about what led you to this place, because we can all do that, and it keeps a bunch of things away. It's very difficult to have crippling anxiety and be grateful at the same time. And while, okay, you can also make a decision to be grateful and to focus on gratefulness for 5 or 10 minutes. And if that's the case and you're feeling anxious, oh my gosh. And so that's what I found anyway. And I can't wait for you
Yeah.
to talk about this a little bit more. I mean, I'm certain you agree with everything that I said. If you want to add to that, let's do it. And then let's get into what it was that gave you this wake up call.
Yeah. So to your point about gratitude, not sharing the same space as anxiety. So something that I had said before, but I had not verbalized it as eloquently, is that until I just thought of it, you can't be both glad and mad. Because when you are angry about something, you're not thinking about, wow, I appreciate this so much. You are focused on the anger. That amygdala is firing, and
Yeah.
you are thinking about how can I feel better by making something or someone else worse.
Yep.
But when you are glad or grateful for something, you're seeing the value in it. And I'm not saying you should never be angry. I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel the spectrum of human emotion, but at the same time, you got to think about what emotions are affecting you with the greatest benefit at that time.
Yep.
And so being able to experience the emotion, experience the anger, experience the frustration, but then quickly key into your gratitude. Say, okay, yeah, this sucks. I got to deal with this. But let's see, what do I have at my disposal that I can use right now?
Yes.
And sometimes we get tongue-tied and we get tripped up in our words, but the effort of working through that, either verbally or mentally, is in itself something for which we should be grateful because pressure and struggle is a privilege. And
Pressure and
so,
struggle is a privilege. Let's go down that path a little bit. Let's reframe, because there's a lot of
okay.
guys who are listening to this or watching this that have been in struggle for a long time and have been feeling pressure for a long time. Like perhaps it's silent as well. Perhaps it's something that they're feeling, it's something that they're holding on to themselves. They haven't really opened up to people about it. So the idea of being able to maybe find a way out of there by reframing it, the idea of reframing, how is pressure a privilege?
Well, you've probably heard this before. If you don't change, you die. Every living thing goes through change.
Mm-hmm.
And some changes are more painful than others. Now, I'm
Yep.
not going to say that every single struggle you face is great. There are some that just suck.
Yep.
Have getting skinned alive and almost losing your arm is not fun. But being able to recognize that you are more powerful than the struggle, that because you have scars because you survived,
Yes.
and being able to say, okay, I'm in this hole, how can I dig myself out? How can
Yep.
I climb out? What can I do to you know remove myself from the situation? Do I have to call for help? Do I have to use the strength within me from key into skills that I already have and use them in a different way?
Yep. I think that is very well put. My wife, in her part of the book, we both wrote the book together. In her part of the book, she rallied around the colloquialism or the phrase or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes a blessing comes like a kick in the teeth, and at the end of
Mm.
the day, to get us, to wake us up. And the idea of, hey, if I've survived, that scar is a remnant of my survival. And so many people love to focus on the scar and make the scar the identity. You certainly are in a place where you could have gone down that path. I'm curious if you did. That's a question that I have. So as you tell your story, and again, we don't want to make your story the entire story of this podcast. I'm certain that a lot of people can do that when they go through something the way that you did. But at the end of the day, like the question that I have for you is, at what point did you realize that you didn't have to be a victim or a martyr or someone who focused on the scar, maybe even as it was forming? I'm super curious how far into the journey it was before you had this kind of insight of your attitude is a little bit more in your control than what the circumstances might dictate.
I could say that this illumination happened far into the future, many, many years or so after my hospitalization. But actually,
Yep.
it was within a few days of waking up from my coma. To
Okay,
go
so
back briefly,
you've set the hook right there. Waking up after the coma, a few days after the what the hell? Okay, so let's go through the story here and let's get to
yep,
this point, because that is that's a great hook right there. Oh my gosh, this guy's been
all
through some
right.
stuff, folks. He really has.
Yeah, so March 18th, 2015, I am helping my wife Becky get our three little kids. They're not so little now, but at the time they were little, into the van so she could take them to daycare and school, and then I can go to her job as a school teacher here in New Ulm. I was flying one of the twins. We had a 6-year-old and 2-year-old twins at the time. I
Yep.
picked up one of the twins and was flying them back and forth to our detached garage. I went too far to the right though and scratched my right hand on our garage wall. And to quote one of my favorite movies of all time, "'Tis but a scratch." It wasn't bleeding. No harm, no foul. And being from Canada, if you're not bleeding, you're fine. So I put the kid into the car seat, kissed them all goodbye. Becky drove them on their way. I went back to the house to wash off my non-bleeding wound and start my day of online teaching.
Yep.
3 days later, it's a Saturday. I wake up and I find a lacrosse ball sized bump on my right elbow. Go to
Oh
the
boy.
urgent care clinic. They're thinking it's bursitis, which is an inflammation of the bursa sac in your joints.
Yep.
They say, keep an eye on it. I say, okay, doc. So I go home
Oh
and I
boy.
keep an eye on that ball, that little lacrosse ball on my elbow, as it grows and grows and grows until my right arm is triple the size of my left.
How many days
I
did that?
like
Are we
to
talking
say that
before?
I'm the what's that?
How many days between as keep an eye on it to what you just described?
Um, well, it's 3 days since I scratched my hand to the lacrosse ball.
Yep.
Uh, so from the time I noticed the lacrosse ball to 3 times the size, 10 hours.
Oh my God. Okay, so keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, it's worse than just keep an eye on it. Like, oh
yeah.
my God.
And
Okay.
I was thinking
Oh
throughout
my
the day, I'm
God.
thinking, okay, it's got to go down sometime, right? I mean, eventually, I'm gonna stop hulking out. I did look like the Incredible Hulk in mid transformation, which I do mention in the book. I have a fun picture of that in the book. Um,
Yeah,
so Becky takes me to the urgent care, to the emergency room now. They keep me
absolutely.
overnight for observation, at which during which time they noticed that I had also gone septic. My blood
Oh,
pressure is all over the place. My body was starting to go into shock.
yep.
So that next morning, that attending doctor says something to me, Mike, I will never forget. She said, "Mr. Gordon, this is beyond us. We can do nothing more for you here. Where do you want to go?" And quickly I say Mayo, as in the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota,
Yep.
because not only is it the Mayo Clinic, it's world renowned, but Becky's parents live in Rochester.
Okay.
So I knew that we would have a home base if we needed for
Yep.
whatever would entail,
It
whatever
shows
would
that you're
come my
still
way.
thinking logically. You're still able to think logically in that place. Like that's a very measured response. Yeah. Okay.
And thank you, by the way. So they fly me to Mayo, fly me to Rochester. It's about a 20-minute flight from where I live here. And
Yep.
they get me to the hospital to St. Mary's in Rochester. And it's there where they diagnosed me with flesh-eating bacteria or necrotizing fasciitis.
Yep.
And so from there, and they've seen it before, they're not a small town hospital. They've been around. They quickly get me into surgery. And from that first surgery, I was out for 5 days. In that 5 day span, they removed all the infected skin and tissue from my arm, shoulder, chest, and back. In fact, the infection got so far, it went up to the base of my neck.
Wow.
They cleaned that all out. And when they did that, they noticed the infection had gone so far into my right arm, they told Becky they would have to amputate. They were preparing to amputate. That was on their schedule to amputate. Mike, what am I holding up?
Your right arm.
My right
Your
arm.
right arm.
Because they took a flap of skin from my left thigh and placed it on my right hand and forearm. Since this is my thigh and my hand, I lovingly call this my thand. So I probably am the only person in Minnesota, but one of the very, very few people in Minnesota who have a thand. So But
Wait,
now
so that
I
skin
have
graft is the thing that saved you?
this is what saved my arm. This flap is what saved my arm. Skin grafts cover my totality of my right side. I look like a
Okay.
discount Deadpool. I mean, we're going to take this show to almost PG-13 here, but you
Let's go.
notice, I mean, I don't have a nipple, Mike. If
Yep.
I ever get cited for indecent exposure, they can only charge me 50%. All right, so I'm saving money here. But
How
you
did that
notice all around
part of your
here
thigh, how did that save your arm? How did that happen? What was the process there that
because
that caused that?
there's an artery that goes that in the part of my leg that they
Yep.
had to attach to keep the blood flow going to my hand.
Okay.
So it was all about blood flow.
So it
They
was a
even use
bypass. It
an
was essentially a
ultrasound
bypass.
machine.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
they actually use an ultrasound machine to check the fan to make sure that it was getting blood flow.
Oh my
So they
gosh.
would put the ultrasound goo on there and then they'd massage it and then get the reading to make sure that it was holding. But after they
Wow.
attached it, they now realize, well, we have this giant hole in this guy's leg.
Yeah.
So they actually had to take out one of my quadricep muscles and then install what's called a Jacob's ladder. And a it's like a shoestring type contraption that is anchored by two knobs that were installed in my leg. And then uh, they had to righty tighty, lefty loosey those knobs to close my wound.
The
And
things we
then
can do,
after
Chris. The
that,
things we can do. Yep. Yep.
after that, they still had to cover up all this infected skin and tissue, this exposed skin and tissue. So that's when they took the skin graft harvester, which I call a cheese grater on steroids, and ran it down my up and down my legs and my back. And let me show you, Mike. Now I'm a ginger. I'm not sure you can tell. I am a ginger. So tanning is
Okay.
already hard for me.
Uh-huh.
You can see the change in skin color
Yep.
from here to here.
Yep.
This is no skin graft harvesting. Skin graft harvesting.
So
All
you've got a
here.
perma farmer's tan.
Yes. I I I I now swim in sunscreen every time I go outside in the spring and summer.
There's a lot to unpack here. Okay.
Yes.
So how long from you get to the Mayo Clinic and you're out for 5 days until the last until the last healing is done? What time frame are we talking here?
All right. So out for 5 days. I was still getting skin graft surgeries. Like they were
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
taking skin graft samples from my legs 4 weeks after I had woken up. I
Okay. So
remember
yeah.
one time. Good. I was gonna say I remember one time after coming back from a session of hyperbaric oxygen treatment, which was
Yep.
in another hospital that's part of the Mayo Clinic system, that
Mm-hmm.
I was getting off the gurney and I was getting into my hospital bed. I had lost my balance and I touched, just grazed my hospital bed. I screamed so loud, two nurses ran in. But then they
Yep.
saw that I was okay and went, gosh, Chris, call us when it's serious. And they went back out.
But the nerves, it just shows what the nerves as you're creating. Do you, speaking of nerves, like, okay, so now all these years later, do you have feeling? Like, do you have the same kind of feeling that you had before, or is it patchy?
Oh, it's simultaneously numb and burning. And what I mean burning
Wow.
is skin grafts don't have sweat glands.
Okay.
There's pores. So they're non-porous.
Okay.
So I don't sweat in this area, which
Gotcha.
means, first of all, I haven't had to use deodorant in my right armpit for 11 years.
Talk about looking at the bright side of things. Oh my gosh.
Wait, I mean, I can make a stick of deodorant last for 6 months. I just told my wife today, hey, I need to pick up my semi-annual stick of deodorant. But on the flip side,
Yeah.
there's no homeostasis. There's
Yeah.
no heat exchange.
Yep.
So this is cooking right now. And
Yep.
it's not, I mean, it's bad. I'm just sitting here. It it feels radiant when I'm running long distances. Like when I ran a couple marathons last year,
Yep.
and I would take a sip of water from the water stand and I would pour most of the water on my arm to cool it down. So and I do have a little loss of grip strength or grip dexterity in my right hand,
Yeah.
but it is minimal compared to not having a hand. So
Absolutely.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I
But
mean, that
yeah,
perspective is everything.
doctors initially said your goal should be to feed yourself with your right arm.
Isn't it
And
crazy how
the
we get
week before
limited? People will say something like that and it limits us, because they give us a perspective. The goal should be to feed yourself. At a certain point, or when you heard it, even, were you like, screw that, I'm going to do more than that? Or was it something that just
oh yeah,
developed?
I was I was I was fuming internally. I mean, I said, okay, that sounds good. I was livid when he
Yeah.
said that because the week before I had gone in the hospital, I had run a 5K, technically a Pi Day race, so a 3.14K
Yep.
in 1929, which is a low 6 minute mile average. I'm
Yep.
a decent athlete. Them telling me I should work towards feeding my right arm was it lit a fire.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main reasons why I am now striving towards qualifying for Boston. And that's
Oh
why
my
I
God.
earned a first degree black belt in Taekwondo. That's
Yep.
why I do as much as I can because I want to not only show myself that I can do, but I want to show others your limitations are only as powerful as you make them.
Thank you for saying that. There are guys listening to this right now who their ears have perked up, and whatever it is that they're going through, um, a great question is: am I limiting myself based on the scar, based on the thing that's happening, the circumstance? Am I limiting myself as to what the outcome could be? You're certainly shining. And I want to go back to that original question. At what point did you know? And you said it was when you woke up. You're talking the beginning of the journey is when you knew, and clearly a bunch of that athletic attitude, that champion mindset that you were building at the time. Um, Now, it sounds great as to when you talk about where you are now, the journey getting there. I mean, I imagine that brushing the side of the gurney, and having your nerves explode on you, screaming out. I imagine that that's the tip of the iceberg of the journey of what has brought you to this place.
Yes, yes, it is, Mike. So when I woke from my coma,
Mm-hmm.
I had a giant cast covering the upper right side of my body. I had my leg incapacitated because of that wound.
Yep.
I had a pick line in my left arm.
Yeah. Oh,
I
the
I,
pick
I
line. Yep.
look like a cow. I look like it was so many medical udders, you know. And then I had a one of those leg pumpers on my right leg, so my I wouldn't get a blood clot.
Yep.
And I had all of this going on through, for the first couple days. I'm trying to make sense of my new reality. Yes, I was
Yeah.
thankful to be alive, but I had so many other questions. What was my life going to be like when I fully recovered? If I fully recovered, that was
Yep.
a huge, that was a huge uncertainty.
There you go.
What was I gonna, how was I gonna relate to Becky, the kids, our other family members and friends, my colleagues, even strangers? What would I do if I got another scratch?
Yep.
I mean, you
Yeah.
think about
Oh God. Yeah.
how many times a day or a week you scratch your hand.
Yep.
It's amazing
Yep.
that one little scratch caused all this. How were we gonna deal with this financially? All these other questions were causing what I call uh personal bacteria. Yes, I had flesh-eating
Mm.
bacteria, but this is personal bacteria in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I had all
Mm-hmm.
these questions, no answers. I started feeling like I was going down this whirlpool of negativity
Yeah.
that I could not find a, a handhold to which I could pull myself out.
Okay,
And
so
thankfully, though,
let's stop there. Let's stop there for a second, because again, the guys who are listening to this right now that are hit with a torrent of overwhelm, and overwhelm is just encapsulating them. So like, and that's clearly where you were at that point. All these what if questions that could never be answered, that are further down the line. Some of those questions may or may not even come into existence. It might not even be a scenario that you have to deal with, but yet your mind goes and it starts filling in all these blanks and creating all this overwhelm. If you could go back and talk to that version of you at that moment, do you know what you would say to that person?
I would tell him that he has a lot more strength than he realizes. Even though he was strong enough to survive this, that what is going to be asked of him is not so surmountable that he can't handle it.
How many of us need to hear that right now? You know, because it's in all of us. All of us have a lot more strength than we realize. But if you don't focus on it, you can't focus on it. It's hard to utilize it. Success leaves clues, and that's a really good one. I appreciate you. I appreciate your reflection on that, Chris. I really, really do. So as this is happening, um, as you're in this place of uncertainty, where was the gratitude at that point? Was it
Well,
there? Could you find it?
it was there. I just wasn't seeing it.
Okay.
I was thankful that my wife and my dad and my brother who flew in from Michigan.
Mhm.
Now, really quick point of order. I grew up in Michigan, so I am required to show you where. So I grew up just north of, I was born in Flint, grew up just north of Flint at a little town called Clio, named after a
Okay.
railroad line, about 90 miles north of Detroit. Well, my brother now lives in Muskegon, which is on the other side of the mitten. He
Okay.
flew from Muskegon to the Twin Cities and then took a shuttle down and spent a week and a half in the Rochester area, either sleeping at Bill and Dee's house, or sometimes he slept in the hospital overnight so he can get the
Wow.
latest word on my condition.
Wow.
And he also bought me an iPad, which was instrumental in my mental recovery.
Right.
And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Sure.
yes, I was thankful that they were there, but it wasn't quite clicking for me as strongly as in hindsight it should have.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
it
had it at the
was a
beginning. You had it when you woke up, which is great. But I mean, it's easy
yeah,
for the clouds to come in and and block the sun sometimes. So, but
yes,
that being
yeah,
said, So that was a dark time. Do you know what snapped you out of it and snapped you back into the? Is it just, oh, I forgot about gratefulness, I know how to start practicing that again? What was the thing that that brightened up the sky at that point?
It was a conversation. Becky came into my hospital bed one day, hospital room. They wouldn't allow that in the hospital. She came into my bed. In the hospital room, sat next to my bed,
Uh-huh.
and she started telling me about all these great things people were doing for us. How our neighbors were snow blowing our walkway and shoveling our driveway. How the local law enforcement was keeping an eye on the house. How people in the Rochester area, some of my online teaching colleagues, some friends we've made through uh, my in-laws' church, because my dad at the time was a retired pastor, and
Hmm.
mom was a Christian school teacher, and actually dad was he was a chaplain in the hospital.
Yep.
So I got to see him a lot during this time. But anyway, people would stop by the house to drop off toys and food for the family and play with the kids, something I wasn't able to do. Like I mentioned, my brother came to see us for a week and a half. A friend of Becky's from high school started a GoFundMe account that
Hmm.
actually raised enough money to offset the lost wages I had incurred
Wow.
from
Yeah.
missing school for so long. Because I missed the entire fourth quarter of school.
Wow.
It was weird. It's like at the end of the third quarter, I got sick, and the last fourth of the year I was gone.
Wow.
She she told me about all these different ways people were stepping up for us. They were helping us out. They're showing us that we were loved
Yeah.
and how much we had. It was at that moment, Mike,
Yep.
that I felt that personal bacteria wash away. And I was left with what I now call essentially the attitude of gratitude.
Hmm.
But I didn't really have a name for it then. I started,
Yep.
but what happened was I thought of three questions. And those questions are what formed the attitude of gratitude. And the first question was, what good things did I have in my life? And while we can always say, and I get this all the time, people will say family, friends, your house, your car, your home. Uh, that's great. Those are all, yes, worthy of gratitude. But I started thinking about what about those small, seemingly insignificant parts of our lives that bring us that daily dose of joy? So I mentioned earlier that iPad that my brother bought me. Mike, it's April, late March, early April 2015. What show on Netflix just dropped?
It wasn't Daredevil, was it? No. On
Yes.
Netflix. It was Daredevil. Okay, yeah, yeah, there you go.
Yes.
My man.
I
We're brothers from
binge
another mother.
watched.
Was not rehearsed,
Yeah,
everybody.
I binge watched that over and over again, especially that hallway scene from episode 2.
Crazy. Crazy.
Oh
One of the
man.
best. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a sadist, but seeing someone else get pelted with a TV made me feel a little better. So
Yeah, the
I
Netflix
felt
run.
I felt thank
Let's just nerd out for a second. Hold on. The Netflix run of Daredevil. Now, the current season, they're trying to get back to that level, but like season one and season two was good, but it was a lot of exposition, right? But season three, 1 and 3 of Daredevil, the Netflix version of it, is some of the best. The best interpretation of a comic book and putting it on screen
mm,
that I've ever seen. My favorite run of any Marvel is the Bendis run of Daredevil, actually.
yeah.
And I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the other stuff that's out there too, almost as much. But that one run was just incredible. So you were able to, and so you were able to take that while you were there, the iPad. You were able to kind of immerse yourself in something that you loved with in full present moment, going, oh, I just love this, while at the same time you're rehabbing or going, not maybe not rehabbing, but going through you're healing yourself and getting yourself back up with a lot of uncertainty that was there. So
Yeah.
that's remarkable. A television show
Yeah.
could do it
And
for you.
What's that?
Being grateful for a television show could do it for you. It could
Yeah,
give you that win in the
exactly.
sales that you needed, little things.
Yeah, and being able to binge that show while, in between surgeries, because there were
Yep.
some days I would have back-to-back surgeries
Yep.
and I wouldn't be able to eat anything. They let me cheat and chew on ice chips, but
Mm-hmm.
that was about it. So I would chew on those ice chips while binging Daredevil.
Yep.
And but I started looking for other small things that I could be grateful for. And so there was
Yep.
Daredevil. There's the fact that the window in my hospital room was so far away from me that even when the sun was right above, right like 12 o'clock was just shining brightly, it wouldn't shine into my eyes. And I know that sounds really weird
Nope.
and random, but when you are sequestered to one spot, when you're confined to one piece of one location, like a
Yep.
hospital bed, not having to ask someone to do one more thing for you is actually a blessing because everyone else is doing so much for you. And then there's the hospital pizza. Now, Mike, I don't know your level of appreciation for hospital food,
It's
but
not super high, Chris.
the hospital food or at least the pizza at St. Mary's was phenomenal. Chef's kiss. Mwah.
There we go.
It could have been that I hadn't had pizza for a while when I finally had a slice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could put ketchup on a circular piece of cardboard and I would have eaten it. But it was great. I still have fond memories of it, obviously.
Oh, I love
And
hearing
so
that.
that was
So
and so what that did was that helped me create what I call gratitude goggles. And the
what good things
gratitude
I have
goggles
going on in my
are,
life? Put the gratitude goggles on. What good things do
yeah,
I have going on in my life? Yep. Yep.
yeah. And it's not just, hey, what do I have good in my life? It's what do I have around me that I appreciate? And it
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be something you use every day. Like I have I have two computers I use interchangeably. I have my work computer, my personal computer, my work computer. And I
Mm-hmm.
have these mouses that I use all the time. Yes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thankful for those because I use them all the time. I also have them looking at my All-Star Superman volumes 1 and 2
Yeah.
that I sometimes I reference in my speaking presentations.
Yep.
I have that. I have my beat up volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the original Ninja Turtles comics, the Eastman and
The
Laird
color
stuff.
ones, the
I
oversized
I got
color
those in
ones,
high
right?
school.
The
The color,
oversized
yeah,
color
they're
ones.
color ones. They're color,
I got them.
but
I
yeah.
got them.
Here, in
Book one,
fact,
two, three. I got
grab
them.
them real quick here.
I love this.
You got this guy right here.
That's the ones. That's
You know,
the
you can
ones.
you can tell the age of it, but I absolutely love this.
Yep. Me
I'm
too.
thankful for that. I'm thankful for the the lights that are helping you see me. I'm thankful for the wall, the look of this wall because it creates some kind of cabin feel, and I love being in a
Yeah.
cabin. The more you see what values you or what you place value in because it helps you do your work, it helps you smile. I mean, if you look at a keyboard, look at each individual key. There are 60 reasons to be grateful right there. And so by looking at all the little tiny things and not so tiny things in our lives that bring us that daily dose of joy, we realize how rich we are no matter what it says on our bank statement.
Yep. Yep. I uh I hope that there are guys who are out there listening to this right now that are looking around at that and being that hyper present about the things that, because at the end of the day it's not all bad. It's not all great, sure. Okay, but there's a lot of stuff out there that we go through life on autopilot. We're 52 minutes in. There's two other questions, and I want to talk about so many of the other things that you are doing since this. You've painted a beautiful picture. I want to know the other two questions. So the three questions, what good things do I have in my life? And we're talking the big things, but also let's look for the little things. Let's look for the things that we just take for granted, or don't even think about sometimes. Never. It's not even a matter of taking them for granted. We just don't even, we're not present enough to see that. That's a great first question. What's the second one?
Second question is, whom in my life should I acknowledge in appreciation?
Mm.
And when we ask ourselves that question, again, the big names come to mind: our family, our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors. But in the hospital, one particular person came to mind, and that was the head nurse, Chris. And that's
Mm.
because I have to step back a little bit. When you are in the hospital, for a long time, they often put a poster in your room called the Getting to Know You poster. And they ask you some questions, or just so
Mm-hmm.
people, have something to converse with you about. One of the
Mm-hmm.
questions they asked on this poster was favorite movie. Mike, I have a stormtrooper behind me.
Yep.
I'm haloed by Ninja Turtles. I
Yep.
showed you my Transformers,
Yep.
and I have Ninja Turtle graphic novels. So
Yep.
you can probably guess what movie I chose.
Well, I mean, my default would go to Empire Strikes Back, but because that's one that was mine up until Rogue One eclipsed it, and breaking the heart of many of my Star Wars friends fans. Was it the original Ninja Turtle movie?
Close, Blazing Saddles.
Oh God!
So I say Blazing Saddles.
Oh, Mel Brooks.
Well,
Oh, Mel Brooks. We appreciate you right now.
he and
Oh,
I, he and
yes.
I are birthday twins.
No
We're
kidding.
both born on June 28th.
No kidding. Oh, Mel Brooks is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
So
Yep.
one day, it's a Monday. I'm lying in my hospital bed because what else do you do in hospital beds?
Sure.
Chris runs to my room almost at a sprint. She's so excited for some reason. And she's virtually out of breath. She says, Chris, I was at the garage sale. I was at a garage sale this weekend, and I saw this, and I thought of you, and here it is. She bought me a DVD copy of Blazing Saddles.
There you go.
I am an item on her to-do list.
Yeah.
I'm a part of her job.
Yeah.
But she not only recognized my favorite movie on a poster in my hospital room, but she went and bought it for me.
It's
And
beautiful.
that DVD copy, I have never even opened it because I have my own copy. That is one of my prized possessions.
Yep.
Not because of its monetary value, but
Nope.
because of the love and friendship in which it was given.
Yeah.
I I don't know how many other people she's bought DVD, how many patients she's bought DVDs for. I'm gonna venture and say maybe less than five. I don't
Sure.
know, but the fact that she recognized it and bought it without any inclination of me saying, "Hey, when you're at a garage sale this weekend, buy me a DVD of Blazing Saddles, would you?"
Yep.
No, and
No.
that's why I love it, and I love her for that.
Yep.
And I know you said we were a little low on time, but I do have a tool to share for this, and
Please
not
share the tool.
and
Oh
the
my God.
yes. So it's called the triple A, and it's the triple A because it actively augments your appreciation of someone. And so what you first do it's a three-step process. You first take someone that you know, and I call them social circles. Think of someone that in which you and this person share a social circle.
Yep.
Then you remove them out of it, or you can remove yourself out of it. You just take them out of the circle. And
Yep.
then you look at the second step is you look at all the ways this person positively benefits the world with no connection to you. And that part's important because when we look at how people affect us in a positive way, it's actually a selfish endeavor and not a bad selfish, but
Yep.
we're thinking about how this person makes us feel.
Yep.
Because when someone does something nice for us, oh, that makes me feel good. Oh, that makes me feel loved. But when you look at someone and how they affect the world around them without any connection to you, that's when you can really see with an objective lens how they affect the world. So I
Hmm.
take my wife, for example. Yes, she's my wife, my partner, my best friend, but she's
Hmm.
also a loving mother, a doting daughter and sister, a brilliant teacher, a well read historian. She's a social studies teacher, a great athlete, a well trained musician.
Yep.
She is as geeky as I am. She doesn't play, but she keeps it, down on the down low. She has all of those things. Now I put her back into our social circle, and she's still all of those things. But she's my
Yeah.
wife, my partner, my best friend to boot.
Yep.
I can't tell you how lucky I am
Yep.
because even if I did, it still wouldn't be enough. And so I think if we were to do this, not just with our partners or with our best friends or with our mom or our dad, but if we looked at someone who we don't know very well, or maybe
Yep.
we don't really get along with,
Yep.
and we see how they benefit the world apart from us, taking our feelings out of it. I'm not saying we're going to become best friends with them,
No.
but maybe we can develop a higher level of respect.
Yep.
And we might see something that could be used in some kind of collaboration and not
Yep.
in a selfish way. Maybe in a selfish way, depends on, you know,
I don't think
what
it's
you want to
selfish. I
get
think it's
out of the
perspective. I think
situation.
it's
But
yeah. I don't think it's selfish. I think it broadens the perspective of things, and it creates other dimensions. It takes somebody from 2D to
yeah,
3D. You know.
yeah, yeah. So I think, the AAA can be something that can really strengthen relationships because
It's a
again,
beautiful aside.
you're looking at the value of the person in terms of how they benefit the world, not how they benefit you.
Yes. Active augmentation of appreciation. It's a life hack. It really is. It's something that you can do. It creates a pause. It gets the critical thinking going, and it gets again the thinking outside of yourself, but about others and how they affect the world. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. The first two questions that I'm hearing you talk about here. I think about and I think you would have seen this. I'm going to put it out there, but if you haven't, it certainly is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, he was addressing somebody, and it was either a commencement speech or a graduation speech. I forget which speech it was, and he was addressing all of these university students, and he got everybody to close their eyes for a second and think of the people who helped them along the way, and I mean anybody who's done that exercise. I mean, my gosh, the well of emotions that come up with that. And I think that this is something that is very, very similar. It's a way to take your brain and hijack it, but not in a negative way, in a good way. When your brain has been hijacked, you can hijack the hijack and you can bring it back by doing things like
Yes.
this and put yourself back into a better spot. What a beautiful, beautiful exercise. And the AAA is an amazing, aside. I appreciate it very, very much. What's the third question, Chris?
The question is, how can I give someone else a reason to be grateful?
Oh,
And in the hospital, I really couldn't do a lot there. My job was to recover. But when I was discharged, that's when I started doing, you know, try to do as much good as I could in the world. Like I would, when I started running again, I would pick up trash on the side of the road or in someone's yard without, I didn't want to be too trespassy when I'm running right up to their house and say, you got a piece of paper right by your door there.
Uh-huh.
Some people get weird about that, but I want to beautify my neighborhood. There's also, sometimes I would notice my neighbor's yard would get a little long. And if I have my mower out, I just go ahead and mow their lawn. And I didn't tell them I did it. I just saw how they mowed their lawn. I did that, and
Yep.
actually, the neighbor came over at one point and wrote a thank you note, and actually put some money in it. And I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't trying to get a part-time job as a lawnmower. I was just trying to help my friend out. But he was obviously very appreciative of it. And then there's the classic holding a door for someone.
Yeah.
And I think we undervalue this one because sometimes we put some kind of gender based value on it. Oh,
Oh,
guys should
chivalry.
never
Yeah.
hold
Yeah.
the
It's not
door
just
for other
chivalry.
guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
only hold the door for your woman, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when you are holding a door for someone, when you are
Yep.
physically standing there holding this barrier open so someone else can walk in, you are stopping your momentum. You're stopping your day to help someone else out.
Yep.
And while the physical action of doing that is based on the weight of the door, usually not that bad, the symbolism of it should not be overlooked
Yep.
because you're putting yourself behind literally someone else. And I think we just got to recognize that is powerful. I mean, someone could be having the worst day ever, and maybe they won't notice that you held a door for them, but
Mhm.
it can be just a way that they will reflect on and say, you know what, hey, that person helped me out. It's a small thing, but
Or
it matters.
it subconsciously takes the edge off a little bit. And they don't
Yes.
even know it, but it's one of those things that it's just, maybe opening that door was the final straw that leads to the blow up or something like that. Like, you don't know, but again, that goes back to your point of don't worry about the outcome.
Yeah.
The act in itself without the outcome necessary is the gold. It's the thing, because you are intentionally doing something. You're present again. I mean, my goodness, being present certainly has been a reoccurring theme in this conversation today. The idea, though, that you're present at that moment. Go, no, I'm gonna wait that extra beat because he's 5 or 6 steps behind. I'm going to wait that extra beat to hold the door for that person. It's a gift for you. I know what you're saying, where it's not self-serving, but it is self-serving because it gets you a little bit of momentum. It gives you a little bit of, there's probably a dopamine hit in there. People smarter than me would be able to understand that, be able to explain that, I should
Yeah,
say.
no,
Um,
you're right. Yeah, exactly.
and it's
Gratitude
just like,
does increase, those, those feel good chemicals.
yeah,
And so you're
yeah.
absolutely
Well,
right on that.
absolutely. Now, I hate to say that we got to roll, we got to roll towards the end. But we got to roll towards the end here. I want to have you back on. I certainly,
Thank you.
you are a surge of positivity and exploring where it came from and how that happened. I mean, my goodness, your inspirational story and the way that you're able to articulate it is phenomenal. Of course, the book is out there, from survivor to striver, but at the end of the day, you're also doing some speaking engagements and stuff. I've got a, your chrisdtgordon.com is the site.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Tell me about some of the people who have, I'm certain, opened up to you, and some of the stories that you've heard, like while you have gone on and told your story and become a speaker to talk and inspire people to get the people kind of maybe out of their rut. I would love to hear what the reaction to that has been. And I'm certain that too, like we were just talking about, gives you that same beautiful feeling of giving back. to others as well. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, thank you, first of all. Yeah, it's been a blessing to be able to serve people in this way. And I've had people come up and tell me how they themselves or they knew someone who had contracted NF, necrotizing fasciitis, and how they just appreciated so much that I was able to reframe it
Yeah.
from just being, oh, I'm just a number, I'm just, someone else who got sick, to being someone who is using this as a platform to make their lives better for themselves and others. I've had people share stories of, and I don't want to dramatize this and make it, and make it grandiose, but they were feeling hopeless,
Yeah.
and at that time, and you know, from my story, they were able to put on those gratitude goggles and
Mm-hmm.
see, yes, there are crappy things happening, but that doesn't take away the value of this thing and that thing and that person and this person, and being able to see the light in the darkness.
Yeah.
If gratitude goggles do nothing else, they help you see the light in the darkness.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I actually now, while I use superheroes by and large for a backdrop of my presentations, I also try to challenge myself in other way and to use uh other themes. So in November, I was at the Twin Cities Con in Minnesota and Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's easy to do. You're right. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I created a K-pop Demon Hunters themed gratitude workshop.
Oh wow.
And I even dressed up as a male version of Rumi. I got the purple wig, I got the white outfit, I got a
Uh-huh.
sword,
Uh-huh.
and I cosplayed, and I even took some purple markers, and I drew purple, patterns
Yep.
on myself.
Yep.
And the little kids who came to that sing, and I also made it a sing along, because how can
Sure.
you not with that
That's
movie?
right.
So
That's right.
the little kids that were, sharing about how they also have scars, but the scars don't define them. They are a part of
Yes.
them. They
Yes.
make up part of who they are, but they're not their identity.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they're thinking of ways they can, who they can recognize, and who they can make smile by doing this kind of thing. And so it's great hearing all the different ways that people can use gratitude to make not only their own lives better, but the lives of people around them.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better than that. You're literally a sunbeam come to life, Chris. I appreciate you very, very, very
It's
much.
the
The
bald
message
head.
today. Yeah, sure. That's what it
Yeah.
is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And your humor
No,
as
I
well.
appreciate it.
If people want to reach out to you, are you on the social media as well? I mean, obviously you got the website. The DT.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the DT. Chris Gordon.
All right.
Obviously, there's a lot of Chris Gordons out there. So the DT is something that gives the individuality. Where's that come from?
I'd like to say it means darn terrific, but actually, they're my two middle initials.
Okay.
My brother and I were both given two middle names. And so my boys have two middle names as well. My nephew does. And so I just figured, like you said, there are more than one Chris Gordon in the world out there.
Sure.
So I
Sure.
figured, I need to separate myself from the rest. So I put that DT. You Google Chris DT Gordon, I'm the first page
There it is.
in
There it is.
my website, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. Oh, it's Chris Gordon DT, Chris DT Gordon author for TikTok,
Okay, but
and
everything else is just Chris
on
TD
there,
Gordon.
yeah, and but on TikTok and other places, I do what's called a gratogram. Every day,
Oh,
I do a gratogram. And a gratogram is basically I talk about, like, it's a short 1 to 2 minute video where I talk about something I'm grateful for why I'm grateful for it. And I asked the viewer, okay, how can you be grateful for something like this?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But it's Chris
Mm-hmm.
DT Gordon almost more than a few, like let's see, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, Chris DT Gordon author on TikTok. I'm not on Twitter or X, even though it has a really cool letter for a name. Not on
You're
that,
not an
but
X-Man at the
all the
moment.
other ones. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
your the website's chrisdtgordon.com. Like I said, you Google Chris DT Gordon, you'll find me there.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to do that because you and I are going to be buds outside of this moving forward. I just appreciate you so,
Awesome.
so, so much. Um, you know what? Stay on the line here. Stay here, and we'll say our goodbye privately. This I say it every time, everybody. This is why we do the show. We do the show to have these conversations and to have these amazing insights, perspectives that could perhaps we could then maybe have some good food for good thought for what we're going through in our lives. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to hechangedit.com. Check out what's going on. The goal is to change the world, to make ourselves better as men, to have better men mean better sons, better husbands, better fathers, better brothers, better citizens. And that's what it is that we're trying to do. We can link up together and do that. Chris has certainly given us a whole bunch of very cool insights today. I hope that you have been even a quarter inspired as how I have been inspired today by this conversation. This has been another episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.